Hi everyone. I'm so happy to have you all here. We will start our live chat with an expert in 1 minute. So we just wait for everyone to join us. Here with me is Yali, our CEO and co-founder of Tailor Brands. Also here, but you can see her is Sharon, but you know her from the group. She's our email marketing expert. So we will start in just in a few seconds. Yeah.
So how are you, Maya?
I'm good. I'm so excited for our first session.
Great.
You can see that. Oh, I can see that Guy and C are here. Hi, guys. Heart us. And Noah and Nicole. I hope you prepare your questions, guys. So, yeah. Okay, so let's start. So, hi everyone again, and welcome to our very first chat with an expert Facebook Live. My name is Mai, and I'm Tailor Brands Community and Social Media Manager, but we kind of already know each other. In this series of live sessions, once a month, we will host an expert from different fields who will answer your questions and will help you grow your very own business. In the next 30 minutes, we will talk about, sorry, I'm really excited today. In the next 30 minutes, we will talk about the very first questions of every entrepreneur, how to turn an idea into a real live business. Please give, as I already mentioned, a warm welcome to our very own CEO and co-founder, Yali.
Hey.
Woo! Okay. So we asked you guys to send in your questions during the past week. So thank you so much for sending your questions. We got a terrific question, very interesting stuff, and we will do our best to address them all. And of course, if you have any additional questions during the interview, feel free to comment in the comment section, and we will try answer everyone.
Hey, Blake.
Hi, Blake. So good to have you here with us. Also, Tiki. Okay, so Yali, can you please tell us about yourself in a few words? How did you come out with the Tailor Brands? Where the idea came from?
Sure. So I come from a little bit of a different background. I actually started out as an actor doing television, theater, moved from there to journalism, then did some political spokespersoning, moved into the creative field, working for agencies. Then I went to New York. I opened up a nonprofit, Rebranding Education. And then around 4 years ago, we started Tailor Brands.
Okay. So we'll know more in the interview. So thank you, Yali, and I guess we can let the answer begin. So our first question is from Wissal and Daniela, and if you hear, so give us a sign. They wanted to know, were you always wanted to start your own business, or so you search for ideas, or did you have no interest in entrepreneurship and decided to give it a shot when you came across this idea?
So I think I always had a thing for starting my own projects. I guess that I always had, projects that I wanted to see kind of turn to life. Before Tailor, I had an organization that basically rebranded education and still live today in the US and in Australia. Before that, I was directing music videos and threw parties beforehand. But all of these really started from ideas that I wanted to see come to life. With Tailor, on the other hand, it was a little bit different. So Tom, Nadav, and myself, we were all in New York.
Tom and
Nadav are my two co-founders, my two amazing co-founders. Nadav is our CTO and co-founder. Tom is our chief designer and co-founder. And we know each other from a while back. And we always knew that we wanted to work with each other. And the story kind of aligned at that point. And the three of us found ourselves without a specific project to work on. But we had we didn't have the specific idea of Tailor Brands. So we just we rented this terrible apartment that was really cheap, but it was damn right terrible. And we just woke up every morning and we started listing ideas on the wall. And at some point, I think that we had like 9 or 10 ideas. And every day we would wake up, Tom and Adav would design and code the new ideas, and I would go out and try and get, business for those things. And after, I think, a few weeks, we already had one idea that had like a bank signed into it, and another idea that had like 10 restaurants that already had a partnership with. And then there was Tailor, our beloved Tailor. And Tailor wasn't the idea that we thought that, is just the best business opportunity.
So why did you choose it?
I think that, we just really believed in it. I think that, when you're out to start something on your own, it's really important that you believe in that thing and not just think that that's a thing that can make money, because at some point there are going to be good times and bad times.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in that idea well enough to go through the bad times, then most probably you won't be able to get anywhere. So I really recommend going out with things that you love and you believe that can really make an impact.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I hope the answer helped you guys. Actually, I can see we have a live question here from C. Hi. He wanted to know, do you think having a business, co-founder or partners is a must for a new business, or do you think you can make it by yourself? Actually, that's a really good question.
So starting a business is hard. If you have people that you can work with and you want to work with, I think that's the most amazing thing to do. I think that opening up a business could be a very lonesome journey. So having people to carry that burden with you is amazing. And if they complete you and help bring in the additional stuff that you can bring on your own to the business, then I think it's a match made in heaven. Obviously, it's better than just doing it on your own.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Yali. So the next question is from Easy, and if you hear, we would love to know that. Okay. So she wanted to know, how do you choose the right business name and brand?
Okay. So I gotta say that I'm pretty agnostic about names. I've seen amazing businesses with terrible names, and I've seen terrible businesses with amazing names. But I think there is a pattern to doing it right if you can, and that is choosing a name that will be memorable. Now, in order for a name to be memorable, you can really go in 2 different routes. The first one is just choosing something, very simple, right? You have Casper, you have Boing. It's names that are easy to remember. The other way of doing the exact same thing are choosing names that are easily associated with what you do. So, for example,
this is Tailor Brands, basically.
It's Tailor Brands. So, for example, when you hear an iPhone, you know that it's obviously a phone. American Apparel is obviously, a clothing company. If you can choose something that people can easily connect with what you do, it makes the job a lot easier. With Tailor Brands, we see it a lot. So Tailor today is, it's an automated branding platform. We have over 500,000 new businesses that create their business with us every month. And
it's really amazing.
Thank you. You also work with us. But we see when people are trying to overcomplicate the whole process, we are really trying to direct them to simplify. Try and choose something that is not so much, a whole story that you made up in your head, because people won't be able to recognize it.
Yeah.
Find something simple, and the same goes with branding. Branding is supposed to do two things. It's supposed to be aesthetic, that is one thing, and the other thing, it is supposed to complement your brand. People are supposed to recognize what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And there are patterns to do that, which is exactly what we do at Tailor Brands.
Okay, thank you, Yali. Let's take another live question. We have a question here from Jesus. Hi.
Hey.
He wanted to know, did you have a mentor to guide you when you first started?
Whew. That's a really good question. I think I picked up mentors along the way. When I started Tailor with Tom and Adav, we didn't really know anybody in the industry. So it was really just cold calling and trying to get people to hear us out. As we grew, some of our investors became my mentors. Some of the people I worked with. It's important to have people that can teach you, that can basically show you how to do things better. I don't know if per se those are mentors. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. I have people, we have people on our team that I won't label as my mentors, but they teach me new things every day, and that's really important.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's continue with our questions here. Renee and Helen wanted to know how to write a business plan and how to develop a business model. This is the next question.
I asked myself the exact same thing when I started Tailor, and I didn't know, so I Googled it. I actually went online and I said, how to write a business plan. And I went to the first investor meeting with this Excel sheet that I created after, downloading a template somewhere. And I was so bad at it. I was so bad at it that our first investor just looked at it and asked me, are you trying for me not to invest in the company? I was so keen of making everything, perfect, and just put in all of the things that I knew exactly that are going to happen, that eventually it looked like, year one, we're going to make $500. Year three, we're going to make $750. Yay. And I didn't show the potential at all. And I think that I learned along the way how to do it much better. And today, it's really about, four things for me. The first one is understanding your user economics, basically your user equation. You have to understand and to be sincere with yourself. How are you going to price that product? And what is that thing that is going to cost to bring users in? The second thing is understanding your user journey, right? How long does it take for a user before he actually pays for it? Does he need to see your product a few times beforehand and so forth? And you can actually put everything like that in an Excel sheet. We can, maybe afterwards we can share something with the users, especially about that. And last but not least, always be very harsh with yourself on the business plan. So
what do you mean?
Imagine the worst possible thing that can happen with, your costs, and the worst possible thing that can happen with your income. So, when it comes to 2 years from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, show the potential, show, all of your imagination of where it can grow. But when it comes to the right now and right here, one of the greatest things that one of our investors did, he deleted my entire income lane. And he just said, let's see if the business can still run if you're making zero money. And that was great, because the number one cause of death for businesses is running out of money. Yeah. And you never want to be there.
Yeah. Okay. So the next question is kind of related to that.
Okay.
Ayat, Nadia, and David. And again, if you hear, we'd love to hear from you. So they already have a full business plan, but now what? How do you start looking for an investment?
Okay, so, I think that a lot of the people would tell you to know people and to find, people that would introduce you to investors. And that is a really good advice, right? Because the majority of investors, when you talk about seed stage businesses, they're going to invest in the people, and not specifically the idea, because usually you have nothing at that point. And if you can get someone that you know to vouch for you, that's an amazing thing. And people do that. They go to conferences, they meet people, and they get other people to kind of recommend them. As I said before, we didn't have that. So you do whatever it takes. For us, it was just cold calling and cold emailing, like a list of, I just Googled like investors in the US, and I just emailed like one after the other. And I got a lot of no's, and I think that a lot of people get a lot of no's. And the number one thing is not giving up, because at the end of the day, it's a binary game. It's not a game of statistics. You only need one yes in a sea of no's to get it right. I remember, and one last story, and then I'll let you continue. I'm talking a lot. I remember I was sitting, I was having a beer with three friends of mine. All three of them have startups. One had like 500 people in the company at the time. The other had like 100 people in the company at the time, and the other was just starting out. And the guy that just started out asked me, or told me, like, one of your investors said no to me. And I looked at him and I said, listen, I have like a wall full of no's. And the guy with that, already his company was like 100 people, said, I can probably fill a whole room with all the no's I got. And then the guy, that the company was really successful. And it's a problem, by the way, that all four of those people were guys, and we can talk about it later. But he said, I can probably fill my entire house. So you're going to get a lot of no's. Don't give up. Just don't give up. And eventually, if you try hard enough and you try, fail, repeat time after time, hopefully, you'll have enough luck to get it right.
Yeah. So don't give up, people. We believe in you. Okay. So the next question is from Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
How do you adjust your business to the rapid changes in the times and in the market? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a terrific question. And I think that it's a terrific question right now, because we are seeing that the market is changing much more rapidly than it did in the past. And you can launch something today, and within a month from now, you'll have copycats, or if it goes well, suddenly there's a whole entire market around it. And I think that you have to be able to always re-examine yourself and never be afraid to pivot.
And by pivot, you mean?
Pivot. I mean being able to kind of find a different angle to do it. There's one of the famous stories that Tom told us a while back, if you remember, was the story about the sticky notes, right?
Yeah.
The Paste-It. And when they tried to invent it for the first time, they were just trying to create a super glue that would be really, really strong. And they spent a ton of money and a ton of time on creating that product. And then, launch day, they're all psyched, and they kind of try and test that thing out, and they realize that the glue doesn't work. It's not good. So at that point, they could either close the company and let all that money kind of go for nothing, or what would people need? They would need something with really, really weak glue.
Sticky notes.
Sticky notes, exactly. So I think that I wake up every morning and I ask myself whether or not the decision I'm making are right. When we started Tailor Brands, nobody was really creating logos in an automated fashion. They told us nobody will ever do it. Nobody will ever buy it. Today, we are roughly like 30% of the market, and we're seeing more and more companies that are going down that route. And I think it's important to continue in following your vision. Some people, they might be faster than you. Some people might be slower. But as long as you follow that thing that you have in your head, no one else can see that. So you'll get to that point faster than anyone else.
Yeah, a lot of things going on in our in our heads.
In your head right now.
In Tailor Brands. Okay, so the next question is from Chelsea. What are a few common mistakes you see new entrepreneurs make, and what are a few books about business you would recommend?
So we all make mistakes. I don't know if I see all of us making mistakes, other entrepreneurs, myself. And I think one of the biggest ones all of us kind of fail with at one point or the other is, overselling to ourselves. We are also keen about showcasing success. And it makes sense because, we need to sell to clients, we need to sell to investors. But what really matters is the product that you're selling and the fact that it provides value. So I think the number one thing to avoid is lying to yourself. You have to be sincere with yourself, and
About what you're
about
selling.
what is working and what isn't. Because it might be so that you need to convince yourself and you need to convince everybody to buy the product or believe in the company, but you have to be really sincere with yourself about what is working and what isn't. Even if you do it at the end of the day in your alone time, do it. It's very, very important. In terms of books, there are a lot.
Your number one book that every entrepreneur should read.
Count of Monte Cristo. No, it's a really good book though. There is an amazing author called Martin Lindstrom, and he has two amazing books called, one is Brand Washed, BRAND Washed, and the other is Biology, BUYology. And they both talk about how marketing actually affects our mind. And it's really important when you try to market something to understand how those things actually work.
Yeah. Okay. If someone read it, we would love to hear. Okay. Just 1 second. So let's take another
question from the audience.
Yes. Yes, we have a lot of questions. So, okay. Helvetia, I hope I pronounced
Helvetia, if we're not pronouncing your name right, we apologize.
Sorry. But let's take your question. What strategy do you use in building reliance in your business?
Resilience in your business.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important to understand the size of your business, and it's important to focus. I think that resilience is about not going in too many different routes that you can support. If you're going in a specific route, if you're launching a product, if you build a store, make sure that that product is tight before you move on to the next.
And by tight, you mean?
That it's working. A lot of the times we have the tendency to launch something and run to the next. And, it might work at a certain scale of people, but you always have to balance and understand how many people are you and how many tasks can you work on at the same time.
Yeah. To be realistic, basically.
It's better to do a few things right than 100 things,
half-baked.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question from Tash and Louise. How much money did you start with? What inspired you to start your business? And what is hard for you when some of the people around you didn't support you?
Oh, that's like a psychologist session. Okay. We
will be better after the session.
Thank you. My dad never liked. No,
but actually
it was really hard. But we started, Tom and Dad, myself each put $2,500, which was our savings at the time to start Tailor. And this is what we started out with. And it was basically to set up the servers, start doing marketing, and get us to that point of the first investment.
But how did you manage to say, okay, for this I need X money for?
Oh, very simple. We put our hands in our pockets and we asked ourselves, how much money do we have right now? And that was the sum. So a lot of the times, your question is amazing when you go to an investor or a bank and you need to understand how much money you need. And that really is based on your business plan. But when you start out, you have to understand how much money you can put in that business. And again, you have to be realistic with yourself. You don't put yourself in a position that if you lose all of that money, you're going to go under. Because at the end of the day, half of us fail. Yeah. And the strength. But
we try, fail, repeat here.
The strength is allowing yourself kind of the opportunity to be able to go afterwards and start again. So it's important not to waste everything on it. Yeah.
Okay, and I want to take another question because I think it's kind of relate from Jesus again, I believe. How do you get your product out there when you're just starting? How do you do it with Tailor?
It's a great question. It's a great question, and we were actually just discussing it this week. We were talking with someone about just that because he was starting his business. So it really depends on what you can do. For us, there are people that understand paid marketing amazingly. So maybe that's a good route for them. I came from journalism. I understood, how to get a pitch out there. So the way we first started getting customers was just articles. We got a lot of articles, and it was just about trying to kind of create a story that people will be willing to buy. There's a whole methodology of how to do that, and we can do that in a separate session. But that's how we did it because we didn't have any money to start out with, and that was the cheapest option. But that was true for a B2C business. Another business, we found ourselves, walking down the street and getting people to try it out. But that was a business that required a different sort of scale. Yeah. It's important to understand how many clients you need. And then, if it's 10 clients, then understand what are your best strategies, what are your strengths to get those 10 clients. It could be PR, it could be marketing, it could be going on blogs and putting the link out there.
Yeah. But let's say that you have a very limited budget. What is you think the most important thing you have to do when you launch your product?
I think it's important to get people to push it out there. It's important to not think that you exhausted all of your options, because a majority of the people that we speak with, and they ask us, how did you do it? Because we weren't able to do it and so forth. And when we went through the process, it sometimes seemed that they gave up just a minute before they got that client. So again, kind of like with the investors, it's going to be tiresome. But one of the easiest one really depends on what your business is, Jesus. But there are tons of blogs out there. It's really easy to just kind of create a good pitch. So what is kind of your unique selling proposition in a sentence, a few words about it, and start emailing it. Start emailing to every blogger out there, every journalist out there. And again, it's not a statistical game. It's a binary game. You only need one in order to start the ball rolling.
Yeah, we need to one yes in sea of no. This should be our
that's your new tagline.
Okay, so the next question is from Emmanuel. How do I sell my idea to people without sounding like a desperate salesman?
You don't.
The art of selling.
You don't. But I think that you have to first really believe in what you're selling, and second, and this is true for any sort of haggling, right? Because when you're trying to sell something, you're basically negotiating, right? You want that person to buy X, and that person might not want to buy X at the moment. And it's really important to set your rules of engagement. Don't be desperate, and people won't think that you're desperate. Don't be afraid to walk out of the conversation. Set out the line of, if the person is willing to do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to sell it. If not, then walk, away from the table.
So desperate is not going beyond that line?
The best way to get someone that said no to convert to a yes is walk away from the table.
Tough
if
love.
You're not willing to walk away from the table, then, if you don't love your idea enough, then nobody else would love it in the same way.
Yeah.
So don't be desperate, and people won't see that way. And I know it sounds kind of new agey, but it works. A lot of the times it just works. You have to convince someone there's something really worthwhile in buying that product. And if you're willing to walk away, then maybe he made a mistake.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Yali. Let's take another live question. Actually, this is about logo and branding, but Amani, when I answer your question, how do you choose a logo that greatly express my project? Yeah, I think.
So I think that it's very important to focus on, again, kind of like with the naming conventions, focus on what you want people to get out of that project. Tailor Brands is actually built on the idea that branding has rules in it, right? Mm-hmm. Branding has sort of patterns in it. We all like to think of branding and design as kind of this magical process that happens in our head. But, there's a famous story about Paul Rand, which is one of the greatest brand designers out there. Steve Jobs took him to create Next after he left Apple. And he always talks about the fact that he created the IBM logo. And, somebody asked him, how did you know to kind of reflect the idea of the 8-bit revolution? How did you know to put 8 lines in IBM? And Paul looked at the interviewer and said, I tried 7 lines that looked too good. I tried 9 lines that looked too good. So 8 lines were just it. And it's really important for your brand to be aesthetic, and that, IBM is an aesthetic brand. And the second thing is understand that how to make it look in the realm of what you're trying to sell. So, if you're looking for fashion logos, you're right, Dior, Vogue, Harper Bazaar, Giorgio Armani, they're all in the same kind of family of typefaces. Yeah. So you can go to tailorbrands.com, put your business, and we'll create a great logo for you, and we can go from there.
Yeah, you can also view our great logo here. For those of you who's just joining, we're here with our CEO and co-founder Yali, and of course myself.
Mine.
But we have a lot of questions and not a lot of time, so I'm just gonna say you can post your questions later, and we will continue interview Yali, not in live mode. So this is the last question from Alan and Octavio. Mm-hmm. What keeps you going given the challenges? How do you choose the right partners to support your business, and how do you choose the right employees?
You know why I love that question?
Why?
Because the second and the third question answer the first question. So what keeps me going?
Let's rewind.
No. So the second and third question in the same question. So the thing that keeps me going are the people around me, right? Yeah. And if you choose the right people, and if you choose people that you believe in, and those could be your partners, though, because those could be your team members, right? Then you want to keep going to make it succeed, not just for you, but for them as well.
Yeah.
And, how to choose the right partners and how to choose the right people. It's all about, finding people that you believe that you want to spend the majority of your time with. It won't always be, the best people in that specific moment for what they do, right? But it's people that might not be the best tomorrow, but if you believe that they can be the best in a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, and you're willing to walk that journey with them, then you have a much better chance of actually completing that journey.
Yeah. Okay. Great answer.
Thank you.
So as I said, we already over our past our time, but I really have a last question that we got from few people. So we got a few questions from different people who are they're starting their own business, and everything is new and fresh, and they're sorry. And they're trying so hard to start their own business. They're facing so many challenges that they are at the point of considering of giving up. What is your best piece of advice for them?
Don't email us.
We believe in you, people.
No, but it's true. It's a lot of the times, if you believe in that idea, then and you can afford yourself, then don't quit. A lot of the times it won't seem like it would succeed.
Yeah.
But if you believe and you try and you fail and you repeat. Then eventually you might have a chance to keep it going. And surround yourself with people that support you, and we'd love to support you more. So write us a line, and we'll give you some encouraging lines in return.
Yeah. So again, we believe all of you. So thank you, Yali.
Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. As I said, we will upload this video here on the group and also on our Facebook page. If you want, you can continue comment, and we will do our best to answer everything. Next session, we will talk about content marketing and SEO for small businesses. So I hope to see you again next time.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone, and thank you, Sharon, here.